Hey, Catherine here. Welcome to the third episode of my series where I document my journey learning pottery as a complete beginner here in Jingdezhen, the porcelain capital of China. So far, I've learned the basics of centering clay and throwing off the hump, and studied under master potters during the 10-day Ban. I took you all the way through my 14th day of class, after which I took my first weekend in a while. And that brings us to today, my last rest day before I return to class tomorrow. Most of my footage so far has been shot within the walls of Master John's pottery school, but today I'm hoping to catch a glimpse of how the people of Jingdezhen live and eat. Jiang Laoshi is an artist who lives in Jingdezhen seasonally. He's kindly invited me for a home-cooked dinner with his family tonight. We're at the market to gather ingredients: fresh seafood, poultry, tofu, steak and pork ribs, and of course, plenty of vegetables. Jiang Laoshi made a name for himself as a painter, but now, later in his career, ceramics is his passion. The two of us quickly discover our shared love of cooking. The home-style dishes are served in Jiang Laoshi's handmade ceramics, shown in exhibitions and valued at thousands of yuan, right alongside more modest dinnerware choices. It's wonderful seeing them being used in the way they were intended. Over tea, Jiang Laoshi shares some of his wisdoms with me. The art world can be unforgiving, he says. So if you want to do art for a long time, don't wear your heart on your sleeve. Keep it here, close to your chest. And yet, through it all, he seems to suggest that a quiet space where art is made not for others, but for our own satisfaction, remains. I'm back at school today, and I could not be more excited to get my hands dirty again. It's a busy day in the studio. In a corner of the classroom, a production potter churns out teardrop-shaped vases. At the rate he's going, he could make 3 of these every minute. It's hard to overstate how much I love going to pottery school. I can think of little else that could get me out of bed at 7:30 every morning, without considerable difficulty, that is. I don't film much today, but I spend it reviewing my throwing skills. To cap it off, I try the teardrop vase the production potter was throwing. But tomorrow, I plan to turn my attention to trimming, for which I'm leaving some greenware out in the hot Jingdezhen sun to dry. Up and trim them. Getting coffee solo today, which I've never done before, strangely. In the past, I've gone for midday coffee breaks with 2 English-speaking friends, but they've since left Jingdezhen. In China, the coffee culture isn't as pervasive. Maybe I'll be able to find another coffee buddy, or maybe my luck is out. Since we are counting the days, today marks the just past halfway point of my pottery journey in Jingdezhen. There's no better time than now for me to learn an essential skill in pottery: trimming. Assembled in front of me are my candidates for trimming. I'll also need a toolbox, a chuck, and, as you'll see later, a lot of guidance. Trimming wasn't something I planned to learn when I first came to Jingdezhen, admittedly because I didn't even realize it was a step in the pottery making process. But now that I've spent enough time throwing, and participated in the masterclass on trimming during last episode's Ban, I realized it was a skill I both wanted and needed to learn if I hoped to create pottery on my own. So here I am, attempting to tap center. His instructions give me confidence, but once I'm on my own again, I'm still fumbling with the tool when the apprentice swings by to check on me again. I've been rescued. The apprentice recenters everything, then uses a brush and water to secure it all in place. Then he uses that pivoting action to quickly level the excess clay at the bottom of the piece. With trimming, there's always a danger that the piece will fly off the wheel if it's not secured properly or if the wrong pressure is applied. Mastering trimming, it seems, is to find that place between firm and gentle pressure. Firm enough to make progress, gentle enough to keep things intact. Time to give this a genuine go. First, tap center the piece. Then, secure it in place with a brush and water. A dusting of clay trimmings from the pan pressed into the void between the piece and the chuck also helps anchor the piece. Lightly wetting the surface massively reduces the amount of airborne dust produced, which can be a big problem when trimming bone dry, as is traditional in Jingdezhen. The apprentice gave me a head start on shaving down the sides of the cup. I'll continue doing that until I'm satisfied with the thickness. After I've had enough of that for the time being, I flip the cup over to trim the inside and lip. Just like in throwing, centering before trimming is crucial for achieving symmetry in the finished piece. Tap centering is a method of centering that involves gently knocking the side of the piece at just the right moment to nudge it into center. While there are many ways to center, such as using visual alignment or a grip, tap centering is the preferred method in Jingdezhen because it's accurate and time efficient for a high-volume, fast-paced workflow. At this point, class is winding down. I'll stop here and finish this tomorrow. I'm having dinner in the break room with 2 new friends. The 3 of us were in the Gaoyan Ban together, but didn't start hanging out until after those classes wrapped up. From now on, you might be seeing a lot of these 2. Introducing my 2 new buddies, Ice Pop and Nose Sister.
很标准的一条狗，对，很标准的一条，我会知道躺下去。它真聪明。
Ice Pop on the left in the yellow dress is a girl my age. On the right is 鼻子姐姐, No's older sister. A few years older, she's a university ceramics teacher.
就不让你进。好，跑走了。锅贴，给你们一个手吧，先烧一下。它就是生的，你要手一下。加个叶子啊，借拿随便拿，等一会儿我还给你。好汤，那正常地上是的。谢谢，你好漂亮。
It's time to finish trimming yesterday's cup. As trimming progresses, finer tools are used to achieve a smoother finish. The final cup is smooth and light, with a small foot ring and pleasant outturned lip. If it takes me 5 minutes to throw a cup, it takes me 50 times as long to trim it at my current rate. With practice, that time can only shrink. It seems that in giving up my coffee buddies, I've gained as many, if not more, tea buddies.
Delivery.
Today I'm practicing teawares, teapots, lids, cups, gongdaobei, and now handles. But not a day goes by that I don't practice vases, which are, to me, the most challenging form to throw. At my current level, vases are hit or miss, and more miss than hit. But this one was pretty successful. It's always fun seeing what the more experienced potters are up to. This one's testing the limits of bowls. After some time trimming, I go back to practicing vases later in the day. The clay this afternoon is very soft, which means it's easier to move around but more fickle and holds its shape less reliably. It's the Goldilocks principle. Just right clay is the easiest and best to throw with, but depending on the day's conditions, clay's consistency can vary. Hard clay is dry and stiff, producing more resistance and friction, but it holds its shape better and is less likely to collapse. Soft clay, wet and slippery, has the opposite properties. Part of being a good potter, I'm learning, is responding to the clay's consistency accordingly. That's something I'm clearly still getting the hang of, evidenced by the string of flopped vases. I just try not to let it get to me. There's another Ban happening with a new batch of students right now. Occasionally, I sneakily, not so sneakily, spy on their classes. Now that I'm actually trimming, I have a newfound interest in and appreciation for the trimming masterclass. These are all the pieces I successfully trimmed over the past few days. I'm going to engrave my Chinese name, Yaya, on the bottoms to mark them as mine. Right now, I'm still unsure what will happen once I leave school. Will I be able to continue pottery at home? Should I buy some knives too? I've seen more students get frustrated by trimming than by throwing, and I get it. If throwing is all about 找感觉, meaning finding the feeling, then trimming, especially when you're a beginner, is all about 耐心, patience. Throwing is fast and exciting. There's a sense of spontaneity and momentum in watching a form materialize from malleable clay. But trimming brings all that to a screeching halt. It's been forcing me to slow down, and in some ways I resent it for that. But I've already gotten a taste of what it's like to hold a perfectly smooth, trimmed piece in my hands, and it's what's keeping me going.
的包装，就桂花。
那拿这个勺要吃。
吃这么好啊？
你们还没吃饭吧？
还没有啊，加班练习呢。
啊。
吃完饭还要是通宵休批呢。
每天都要通宵休批了吗？
对呀。
清完了是为了
放到楼上的库房，给学生画画，库房没怎么批了。
哦。
暑假一过，就会有很多的大学生来研学。
哦。
都是几百的来，就你们这种的。
My breakfast these days are simple: fried eggs plus toast. My morning coffees add a tiny bit of novelty. This morning, I practiced vases and more tea wares. I also threw some spouts for my work-in-progress teapot, which is now fully trimmed and ready for next steps.
后面有那个绿豆汤，想喝吗？来一碗的。
你要盛多少？
半碗就行。
你要汤多一点还是绿豆？
汤多一点，因为我刚才喝的。
I figure that if I make plenty of greenware to practice on, I'll be less precious about making mistakes while trimming. The mood in the break room is somber today. It's actually Ice Pop's second to last formal day of school.
你的 expression 好 sad。开箱是吗？3、2。开箱。然后呢？开箱。你帮我吃吧。好吃。要吗？尝一下吧。
Despite having been near strangers just one short week ago, the three of us have grown unexpectedly close. Every day we spent together has been filled with laughter. The ways in which we take care of each other, saving seats, sharing snacks, exchanging encouragements during frustrating moments, well, I'd be lost without these two.
这样子有点像瓜一样，贝贝奶瓜，都可以装当储藏的罐子。
We've made special lunch plans for Ice Pop's last day tomorrow, and she'll hang around for a few more days after that. But I'm starting to feel a keen sense of sadness, knowing this period of time together will be over before I know it.
走了。披萨，披萨。
Instead of grabbing lunch in the cafeteria, we're getting, you guessed it, pizza for lunch today. This time of day, stepping outside is like entering a giant oven.
就是像洗完澡再掉的头发。然后头发起来。
香肠，那个是 margarita。
Both are good, but the margarita is still my favorite.
Yeah, but I like.
You like him?
Yeah, I like him very much.
Do you want to marry him?
No. 是我吗？是你，真的像呆猫。I'm illiterate，我写不了中文字。没事，You can write English。It's okay.
I'm sorry.
You
Uh-huh.
you 这是什么
Here.
？You here? Yeah.
那你是 eyes， 你是鼻子
鼻子怎么说 ？Nose.
Nose. 后来找我为什么？我觉得是湿的。哎呦，擦一擦。
我一下。
这里。放到那个第三层。
I've been taking it easy on throwing for the past couple days, after accidentally straining my left wrist trying to center a hard lump of clay. Now that I'm feeling better, I'm ready to ease into a more rigorous throwing regimen. I start by practicing my 90-degree straight-walled pull as high as I can possibly go. There's a slight twisting from pulling too fast at some parts, but that was a good first run. Let's see if I can do better on this next one. This time I've gone higher, but my hand loses speed near the top, resulting in a thin spot. I'll keep going until I get this right. This one is satisfactory. The walls are straight and there's minimal warping and unevenness. Now I'll move on to practicing other shapes. Aside from vases, a more recent obsession of mine are these gaojiaobei, goblets. They're a bit tricky to remove from the hump, though. The production potter has moved to a different shape today. Turns out he's one of Master John's earliest apprentices. Looks like his teachings really paid off. Later, on our way to get lunch, we catch the apprentices glazing. They're dipping bisqueware into buckets of delicious-looking color. Initially, I told myself not to get my hopes up about making finished pieces, in case I never got there. But with a few of my pieces now waiting for bisque, and my interest having expanded beyond throwing to include the whole ceramics process, it's only natural that I start thinking about glaze, and where to get it. I once asked Tan Lao Shi, in your opinion, what's the hardest thing to make, start to finish? His answer was tea sets. At first, I didn't quite believe him. I thought for sure he'd say something like a towering, meter-tall vase. But Tan Lao Shi explained his reasoning. Teawares are the final boss of pottery. They involve many components, teapot, gongdaobei, and teacups at a minimum. Each of those components involve many steps, and each of those steps their own intricacies. For example, throwing a teapot and its matching spout and lid requires a sense of visual harmony. Punching strainer holes and attaching handles, knobs, and spouts to bone-dry clay is a delicate task. Not to mention, the finished teapot must have a strong, smooth pour. So much can go wrong at any point in this multi-step process. I've realized too late that I've attached my spout too low, meaning the teapot can only be filled partway. It's only now that I understand Tan Lao Shi's answer.
Wow.
We've made it to Lao Chang.
好，那么我们现在进来全都是各种的皮店。皮店，对，它叫皮。快到了。
Before we go check out glazes, we're stopping at the tool shop.
买刀。
I've decided to buy the essential tools and bring them back with me to the US. I have a feeling these will be hard to find once I'm back home.
这个价钱你知道是什么？
老大还是老价格吗？老价格是30块。
I also get the blades sold separately that fit into these knives. Razor blades I can get anywhere, but they're cheaper here. We're making good time so far. Next stop, the glaze shop. There are glazes in every color of the rainbow and every finish too.
"在这个 range 里面，它才能烧出这个效果。高一点也不行，高一点可能会飞色。拿一个这个吧，33D。这个27C。OK， 我就先买这俩。这是什么样子的mold可以在这里面 survive 吗？别打开。
We have time to check out one last spot before we go. This is a Laozihao, a time-honored brand. It's been supplying glazes to potters in Jingdezhen for a long, long time. There's not enough time to buy anything while we wait for our ride, but I'm enjoying simply marveling at the wonderful effects glaze can achieve. I still want to shop for more glazes, so No Sis recommends I check out this spot. I'll go after class today. These days, in order to push myself to throw more accurately, I'm using this vase thrown by an apprentice as my platonic ideal. I've been trying to replicate its proportions to the best of my ability, but some things are much easier said than done. When I first started pottery, I wouldn't have dared wear a nice outfit like this to class. Back then, I got clay everywhere. On my face, in my hair, smeared across my clothes and splattered all over the floor. I thought it was just a given, but then I saw the more skilled potters walking away with barely a speck of clay on their clothes. They seemed to be able to control where the clay was going. An apprentice once let me in on a trick he was taught by his masters. After centering the clay, he took the excess slip that had gathered on his hands and scraped it off into a designated part of his splash pan. From then on, he'd take slip that he needed from that stash, depositing more whenever he had extra. That was also when I realized that mastering slip is essential for mastering throwing. Applying slip at the right time and place makes a difficult action easy. Master John once said, "It's a common misconception that water helps us throw more easily. Actually, slip does." My bisque has finally emerged from the kiln, and they're in here somewhere. Thanks to the Yaya signature, there's no question that these are mine. Now it's time to decide which of the 4 glazes I purchased will best suit each piece.
Cheese.
都插进去。
这个是软的。
喜欢看酸黄瓜，
哦，对，酸黄瓜。
豆腐干是谁的？比较爽口。
After lunch, I flagged down Xu Jialian and asked to watch him throw a vase. This isn't the first time I've made this ask. In fact, it must be at least the 3rd, but it helps to observe again.
取泥的时候，取多点的时候，第2步压下去的时候晃，是因为这样子扶着。
对啊，就是它开始是这样扶嘛，它扩大了，你手也跟着它一起往边上张开。
In both English and Chinese, there is this concept of the bottleneck, meaning a narrow passageway or problem that restricts progress. In learning and creating, there are many slightly different but similar expressions. Call it what you want: hitting a wall, plateauing, writer's block, or in this case, potter's block. For the past 2 or more weeks, vases have been my greatest obsession, challenge, and frustration. However diligently I practice, I can't seem to get through to the other side of the bottleneck, can't seem to make that perfect vase I see in my head. Vases are difficult for many reasons. They're tall forms requiring you to use more clay and pull it higher. You might start by retrieving enough clay, but lose too much of it at the base and belly, leaving nothing for the neck. This was one of my earliest recurring problems. Say you do save enough clay for the neck. Pulling and creating enough height for the neck is another hurdle. And coloring in on the neck, making it progressively skinnier, applying pressure without collapsing the shoulder of the vase or warping the neck itself, is no simple feat.
就是我跟他们一起的。就是我，他抱的时候特别容易晃，其实一个人也可以拿出来，但是难度比较高。
On one particularly disheartening day, when I felt like I was getting nowhere, I confided in Nose Sis while picking over my lunch. She nodded knowingly and explained the concept of the bottleneck, called pingjing in Chinese. Of course, it was a concept I was familiar with, but for some reason, hearing her calm explanation helped me think about the problem I was facing in a new light. Oftentimes, we're told that if we keep making the same mistakes over and over again, we must be doing something wrong. That's exactly how it feels when I try vase after vase, only to falter at the same few places over and over. It's hard not to feel like you're failing, or worse, that you're just not cut out for it. But we get discouraged not because we're bad at something, but because we forget that progress isn't linear. reality is that pottery demands endless repetition. Hundreds of good runs that produce decent-looking pots, but thousands more poor runs to encode new skills in our muscles and our minds. To be sure, brainless repetition isn't as helpful as thoughtful iteration. But if you're not sure what went wrong during your last throw for the 1000th time, just think of one small thing you could do differently and throw again. You just might need to mess up one more time. Comparing yesterday's vase to the one I threw just now, it's much, much closer to the target. Suddenly, I feel the weight of this breakthrough, and in this moment, I couldn't be happier with my level of progress.
I think that's a pretty big improvement. Got a skinnier neck and a rounder body. Edge is a little bit too thin, which makes it hard to trim. But altogether, I'm liking the way this looks.
说谢谢。
谢谢。
不对。
漂亮啊！
看他拍的照片，他拍的真好看。
我觉得像他们这种的有耐心盯着。
这样吗？我也送你。
我没事，真的吗？Why？
因为你喜欢呢。
这个
你跳舞。
很可爱。要走了，要我退票吧？
别哭，我们今天晚上还要吃饭呢。
今天晚上还要吃饭，吃完饭再哭。
坏吗？想出去。
哦，重庆有点像我在纽约那边茶景店。
It's already late, but we linger, slowly perusing as if we have all the time in the world. I think it's because we know that once we reach my apartment, it'll be time to say goodbye and our little group will no longer be whole. But the three of us have had so many happy, full days with each other that it's impossible to feel regretful or too sad at all. Full, happy days spent potting, sharing meals, exploring the city, laughing over small things, and creating memories I'll hold close forever. It's hard to feel anything but grateful, really.
谁来了？哦。
有时间约出来玩，可是我们都在不同的城市。
没关系，到处都有朋友是最好的。
是的，到处都有。
不要哭，没事。
Why are you guarding the door like that? Enter my riddles 3. 汪汪，你不起来吗？你不怕我吗？哎，嘿，你要礼貌，谢谢，让我，可以。
Coming up, my last days of class and my final days in Jingdezhen.